This might be a little hard for me. I don't even know if I'm gonna post this video yet, but it's the truth. I gotta tell you why I do this, my experiences, and what has been on my mind for years. And you know, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna admit it. Maybe my wife was right. My new wife. You know, maybe she was onto something. I just didn't see it. You know, one thing I'm gonna let y'all know something. If God says something on your heart, there's really nothing you can do to change his mind. If he wants you to do something, or be somewhere, or be with someone, it's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. And I had to realize this, man. All started back in 2007 when I met a woman. You know, my first wife. I met a woman. Like I said, I'm going back now, man. Bear with me, people. This is my testimony. This is my story. You know, and I'm not going to lie to you. Holy Spirit guide me. I'm going to tell you the truth. I was fresh out the military. I was dating a woman in California. I just knew it wasn't going to work out with her. And I met somebody. My cousin set me up. I remember I was out the military for a few months. And it was like, somebody wants to meet somebody new. I'm like, meet somebody new? I said, why you chose me? I'm like, why me? I just got the military. Why me? You know, I'm like, you know how many cousins I got in my family? This person had brothers. But my name come up. Wow. Testimony, people. My name came up. Right? Let's meet somebody new. So I'm trying to get away from this other relationship, right? I just knew that wasn't for me. It was in California. I was dating someone in California. But I went back there. Anyway, I met up. You know, I met up with her. You know, Julie. Let's go by first name basis now. I met up with Julie. She inquired of me. Or she inquired of someone. And guess who it was? Somebody called me. It's a small world, buddy. Anyway, so we met up. Hit things off. Everything was on the table. She told me what she was. She told me her lifestyle. She told me she was pagan. She told me everything was on the table. Right there. But I was drawn to her. Mm-hmm. You understand? I was intrigued. We hook up. But I had to go back to California to close the deal. So I went to California. And all things were going to hell in a handbasket. This woman I thought I wanted to be with, I didn't want to be with anymore. But I had fallen for someone else. This is the truth. This is the truth, people. I fell for Julie. I fell for her. But it wasn't just, I was already falling away from the other one. But I just had to close the deal. So I went up there and I called it off. Went back home. Went back to Mobile. Soon after I found out Julie was with child. I wasn't ready to settle down yet for real. I'm fresh out the military. I'm ready to be a whore. I'm just being real with you people. I'm ready to be a free man. I'm fresh out the military. I'm free. I'm like, man, shoot. I'm free. You know, let's live life, you know. But things started getting bad for me, man. I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't get a job. You know, people like, you got the military, man. Do this, do that. I'm like, man, I don't know. I'm working here. I'm trying to work. I'm trying to get income. And I'm going back and forth from Alexander City to Mobile. And I got a baby on the way. And I'm like, man, I was like, hey, I told Julie, I said, hey, if I don't get this last job, I'm going to come up there and stay. Guess what happened? I get a job. And when I get this job, I meet a woman. I started cheating. This is for my Christ faith, what I consider cheating. I think boyfriend and girlfriend is cheating. You know, now I don't even look at that the same way. But in this time frame, I was cheating. I was a cheater. Now I know it's just fornication. But I started dating this woman, and I had a baby on the way out. And the Lord was like, I know it was the Lord. I was talking to her on the phone, and she was like, she knew something was off. And I finally confessed to her, hey, I'm seeing someone else. Look at that opportunity, though. If I would have just moved when she asked me to move, this would have never happened. You see, I'm starting to learn through my walk that the devil opened doors too. Y'all ain't hear me. He opened doors too, but it was miserable. So my daughter was born, and I brought my daughter around this new woman, and she was not feeling it. She was selfish. She wanted me to spend time with her. I'm trying to spend time with my newborn. You know, horrible story. You know, one of the worst things I did in my life, to cheat on a pregnant woman. You know, I regret that. But it happened. Hope y'all got turned. I'm trying to go through all the details, front to back. So anyway, fast forward short, Julie pleading with me. She said she's been praying for me to come home, come up there with her. And then one day I just broke down spiritually, and I talked to my father, and I asked him, I said, what you think I should do? He said, go be a family. My dad wasn't the type to give advice about anything. You know, he didn't know the truth, the whole story, but that's what he was telling me to do, go. So I was talking, I broke down, and I packed up my bags, and I moved to Alexander City. She said she had forgiven me. It took me a while to get through that. I'm up there being a family. You know, but I'm going into my purpose. I'm stepping into my purpose. Everything's going good. You know, we blessed with a house. She had good credit. We get a house. We move into a house, man. Everything's going good. I'm starting to slip a little bit. Slip away from my belief system. I'm leaning towards her belief system. You know, during this time frame, I start going through all kind of hell and high water in regards to things, seeing things, hearing things, feeling things, doing horrible things. You know, I was clubbing, I was doing everything, I was wearing school attire, and I remember I took a picture during this time frame, and there was a demon in the picture. And I'm like, what in the hell is that? You understand? You know, we wasn't married, and then long fast forward a little bit, you know, I'm starting going through real spiritual warfare. I'm thinking something after me. Something's after my soul. I started losing things. I lost my job. She lost her job. Hell coming loose. I'm going through spiritual warfare. And I'm praying. I'm doing horrible things. I got to tell this story accurate. I remember one moment years ago. I wasn't working Julie Woods. And I'm sitting at the house, man, and I'm jealous, envious. I never was these things. I was never a jealous man. But during this time, I was just jealous and envious. I was worried. I'm like, what is she doing? Who is she talking to? Nervous, you know, passing by a job back and forth. Watching her like a hawk. You know what I'm saying? And this one day, I'll tell you exactly what happened. I'm sitting at the house I had just dropped off at work. I get in the car, I drive back to a job, I make her get in the car. I'm so nervous and mad and angry. And I'm telling her, I'm like, hey, I know you're cheating on me. This is the battle I'm facing. I know you're cheating. You know what I'm saying? And she was telling me her menstruation was on. Y'all gonna think I'm a horrible person for this. I made her show me. I remember this, like I said, show me. And she was scared of me, man. Like something was taking control of me. Like she was scared of me, like frightened. And I made her leave work and I took her home and I put her in the bed. And I'm crying. I'm going through spiritual warfare. I don't know what's going on. I'm praying to the Lord, like, what is this, man? What is going on with me? What is going on in my life? Why is this happening to me? I finally started calling on the Lord again. And just like that, I hear a knock on the door. And it was her family. It was like, we thought something had happened to Julie. I'm like, no, that ain't happened. Something did happen, but it wasn't what they thought. And her aunt was in the hospital. You understand? Real sick. They had to rush her to the hospital. And so they check on her, they leave. And I'm praying, and the still voice says, go home. Go home. Now, I was drinking, I was smoking, I was marijuana, everything known to man. Except white drugs. I don't really do pills, never did. You understand? But I was a real drunk. You know what I'm saying? Like, couldn't live without it. Had to wake up and smoke weed, had to do this and do that. That was my comfort. But none of that could stop what I was going through. The voices and the shadowy figures and all this other stuff that I'm seeing. You understand? And I wake Julie up. I was like, hey, man, you got to take me home. You got to take me back to Mobile. I need to go home. But before that happened, I was praying to the Lord. And I was like, Lord, what is the problem? And she had witchcraft books. She had pagan books on the bookshelf. And the Lord said, that's your problem. I'm like, wow. I never thought witchcraft was real. I never thought it could affect me. You know, it's just bull. Just a way of people believing. So, Julie was like, okay, I'm taking you home. And the whole time on the way home, the feelings I'm having, like, I'm still having these thoughts. So I couldn't control it. It's just racing thoughts constant in my head. You know, I didn't want to leave because I wanted to be with my family. But my son was born during that time period too, you know. And actually, no, my son wasn't born yet. He was born shortly after that. Yes, that's correct. So I went home and she dropped me off at my brother's house and she went back up the road. I was thinking I was going to be down there for a few weeks or so. You know, I was like, man, I got to get my mind right. And I called my mom. I remember I called my mom. But before that, I went to my brother. I brought some weed with me. I'm at my brother's house, and I'm like, hey, let's roll up, man. Maybe this make me feel better. But I haven't eaten right in weeks. I went from like 235 to like 200 pounds in a matter of weeks. Didn't even realize it. Because I was so stressed and I was going through so much stuff, so much spiritual warfare. I didn't know I was going through spiritual warfare at the time, but I know now so I can explain it. That's that. So I rolled up a blunt, me and my brother, I smoked one, and I went downstairs. And the whole room transformed, and I saw people with black eyes, and I saw my enemies. I saw people who were against me. I saw the fight. I didn't understand it then, but it was clear what my job was. And, you know, and it was over. My brother started walking down the stairs, and it was over. And right after that, I was like, what the hell just happened? So I called my mom. I was like, I need you. And my mom and my sisters, they rushed to my call. And I told my mom, I need you to pray for me. And I went upstairs. I remember praying. My mom bleeding the power of Jesus over my life. Praying for me, praying for me, praying for me. And I said, I need to go to church Sunday. I like, you going to church? She's like, yes, I'm going to church. So I get a call probably a few days later, probably the next day. She was like, I'm not going to church Sunday, but your sister is. So I'm trying to tell my brother, I'm still trying to smoke weed, but I can't even stand it. Every time I hit it, my mind goes somewhere. You know, I was like, man, I got to get away from this. you know, and my sister come to pick me up. I go to her house, her husband and her kids. They had a room prepared for me. And in the room, there was nothing there, but there's a Bible there. You know what I'm saying? And I remember it sat on the nightstand, and I was just so ready for Sunday. I was so ready for Sunday, and it was like I knew, I was like, I got to go to church Sunday. Nobody really knew what was going on, but they just knew I came home and something was wrong. And so Sunday come. I remember I had one cigarette in my pack, one Newport. And before I went to church, I smoked that Newport. And I walk into the church. Upon walking towards the church, I'm already crying. I ain't even in the doors yet. I can feel the Holy Ghost or something. Whatever I felt it on the way that I got in the church. I couldn't start crying from the moment I stepped into the church. And I sit down on the pew. I look to the left. My niece is crying too. And then the preacher started to preach about witchcraft and sorcery and people that are bound by this thing. And I gave my life to God that day. And I left that church. I had no feeling of desire for cigarettes or anything else. Everything was gone. But he had renewed me. And I went back to my sister's house. And I remember I had horrible eat. I wasn't eating right. I couldn't eat. I had no appetite. And I was looking on the fence and I see a squirrel start eating. And it was like, eat. A squirrel, huh? A squirrel talked to me. Yeah, a squirrel. And I ate. My appetite was back. I could eat again. And I went upstairs and I picked that Bible up. And I could understand what I was reading. The first time in my life ever, I could understand the Bible. And that's what it is, people. It started the process. So while I'm reading, a voice keeps telling us, go back home. I go back. I just saw a vision. I just had a dream about witchcraft. Why in the hell I want to go back there? But the voice was like, I kept telling her I got to go back home. So I called Julie. She was like, no, you don't need to come back yet. I was like, you got to come get me. Probably a few days later, she came. I went back. And I already knew what I was facing. And that begins my story with Christ. The conversion process, the process. You understand? Why was I chosen? I don't know. Why was I picked to step into this fight? I don't know. But I was. I was sent back up there, man. And I joined the church. I prayed to the Lord to find me a church, and he slipped me to a church. I started going to church every Sunday, praying and praying, and things were still going on. My mind still wasn't right. It took years for my mind to finally calm down, and I gave my life to God. I thought it was just going to be instantaneous, like the growth process was just going to be instantaneous. But even while I was going through these spiritual battles, God had me minister to so many different people. I lost a lot of friends during the conversion process because I wasn't drinking or smoking or doing anything at that time. I was just trying to find, chasing after God. Nothing but gospel music, feeling the Holy Spirit everywhere I went. You understand? Going to church, walking the walk, changed my dress, started wearing khaki pants and tucked in shirts again. But this was my judgmental phase. This was my horrible Christian walk phase. I was just hateful. I saw everybody as nothing. God has woke me up, and I'm the best thing since sliced bread. And I was hard on everyone. Super hard. Like, nobody liked to be around me. I was cleaning house, buddy. They're like, oh, no, I don't want none of this here. I had Julie at one time burn all her witchcraft books up. Shortly after that happened, I was set on fire. Probably a few days later, I was burning trash in my yard, and I was burning with gas like a dummy. But the weird thing about this moment was I saw the fire come like a serpent and burn me. You know what I'm saying? and I had the gas can right there. Most people say stop, drop, and roll, but I had to back pedal. And my daughter was on the porch, and my wife's mother was on the porch. She wasn't my wife, but yeah, she was. We was married by then. But she was on the porch, and my daughter would see it. She still remember this day, and she was young. She remember me seeing her dad on fire. And God delivered me that day, and I came out my clothes, because if I would have failed, I would have burnt up with gasoline. You understand? And I had degree burns on my body, but I never went to the hospital. You know, my voice never told me to go to the hospital, but I was nurtured back. Julie nurtured me back to health. You know, we had all the tools. It's weird. We had bandages and all this stuff just laying around like I was trying to get burned before. You know, and ooh, you know. Let me pause and I will continue.